Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I am super excited to share with all of you a Fude brush haul from my recent Japan trip. So I've picked up a bunch of new makeup products and new brush products over the past month. This video is kind of a companion video to my huge holiday haul video. That was sort of all of the makeup products I picked up. But in this video, I wanted to pay special attention to some of the luxury Fude brushes that I picked up while I was in Tokyo. These are brushes that are a little bit harder to find in the US, but you can find them from either the brand's website or from Fude Japan, so I will include those links down below in case you're interested. But I was super excited during my recent Japan trip to pick up a bunch of brushes because I absolutely love Japanese Fude brushes, and other than the brands that are available on Beautylish, it can be a little bit tricky getting Fude brushes in the US without paying steep shipping costs, and so being able to see them in person, select them by hand, and purchase them at a discounted price was definitely a draw for me. So to first just briefly go over the brushes I picked up. First off, I went to Mitsukoshi, which is this big department store in the Ginza district of Tokyo. So this is one of my favorite department stores. It's extremely luxurious. I really can't afford anything other than the makeup products there. But they carry Hakuhodo brushes there. And Hakuhodo is actually a brand that I haven't tried before, so I'm very excited to try out these two brushes that I picked up. The first one is the Hakuhodo S-138 Eyeshadow Brush Round and Flat. So this retails for $53 on their US website. You can see this is a pretty small eyeshadow brush, pretty thin. I really love the detailing that they have on this handle. And this S100 series is Hakuhodo's flagship series, hence the very expensive price on this tiny brush. So each brush handle is finished with rich vermilion lacquer, and the ferrule is gold plated with 24 karat gold and then protected by a clear scratch resistant coat. So I was definitely very impressed by the fact that this has 24 karat gold in it, and I mean, this vermilion color is so beautiful. It reminds me of the Inari Gates in Kyoto, so I definitely wanted to pick up one from the series, and I was excited about this brush because I thought it would be the perfect brush for either lower lash line work because it's just super soft, and also potentially for kind of packing on shadow into small areas of the lid. So I'm super excited to try out this brush. And I believe that this brush is blue squirrel hair just based on their website. The other Hakuhodo brush I picked up is this J4003 angled highlight brush. This is a goat hair brush that has a nickel-plated brass ferrule, and I got this personalized with this specialty silver handle. So the default handle is black, but when you buy this in store, you can also choose to have this silver handle. So I decided to go with that since I'm always stoked when you can get something unique in store. And this retails on their website for $54, so it is a lot more affordable than the other brush, which is the same price, but of course this is much larger. This is made out of undyed goat hair, and I was attracted to this because one of my current favorite brushes is this detail brush from Sonia G, and I love this for basically all over face work. I think it's really great for precision in terms of applying contour, blush, highlight, and I wanted something similar, so even though this is technically a highlight brush, I think this will play a really similar role in my collection. So I'm super excited to try this out today with some contour. So in addition to Mitsukoshi, I also went to a store in Ginza called the Hiroshima brand shop Tao. So this is a souvenir shop that has a lot of different products from the prefecture of Hiroshima. And you guys have probably heard a lot about Kumano, which is where all of these fancy makeup brushes come from. And Kumano is a city in Hiroshima. And so I was super excited to check them out because they have a bunch of beautiful brushes as well in their store. In particular, they carried Chikuhodo and Koyudo, which are two very famous brands. So I picked up these two brushes from their store. The first one is this Chikuhodo F04 Cheek / Highlight brush. Again, I was very attracted to this brush because of that angle. And this is quite a unique brush in that it's made from silver fox. So I've never had silver fox hair before. All of my existing brushes are mostly goat and then some squirrel. So I was very intrigued by this because it's supposed to basically have the softness of squirrel but be more resilient than squirrel hair. And certainly when you touch it, it is extremely soft. I was also just attracted by how beautiful this brush is. I love this green ferrule and this undyed wood handle. It's extremely beautiful. According to Fude Beauty's website, the FO series is the industry's first natural makeup brush made with silver fox bristles. And this is an aluminum ferrule and a hard maple wood handle. The final brush that I picked up was this one from Koyudo. This is the Kakishibuzome Cheek Brush 03. And apologies for butchering that name. So this is made out of Chikuhodo goat hair, but it has a special dyeing process using persimmon that leaves this really gorgeous orange effect on the bristles. According to Fude Beauty's website, this is a traditional dyeing technique that has been passed down since the Heian period, which was around the 700s to 1100s. This method of dyeing is known as kakishibu, and in addition to leaving this beautiful color, also has antibacterial properties, and the handles are made from cherry blossom wood. So it's kind of funny, when I was in store, I told the sales associate I wanted to buy both of these, but because I don't really speak Japanese, she was confused and thought I was trying to compare the two of these. And so she was like, okay, this one is fox hair, which is what makes it really special. And I think she was kind of trying to nudge me towards buying this one over this one. But even though these are very similar brushes, I wanted both of them because this one is just very beautiful. I mean, it's probably not as different from my existing brushes because it is that same Chikuhodo goat, but this coloration is just so unique. And I bought this right around the time that Sonia G came out with her Mount Fuji brush, which has the same sort of dyeing technique. And I was very on the fence about whether to buy that brush and ended up deciding to pass on it. And so this for me was kind of the alternative that I ended up deciding to pick up instead. So these two cheek brushes are quite similar in size, but you can see the shape is a little bit different. The Chikuhodo has that angle to it, which I think will be really nice, especially for bronzer and contour, whereas the Koyudo is a symmetric shape. And in case you guys are new to Japanese makeup brushes, another thing I'll mention is that they typically have shorter handles than most Western makeup brands. So you can see that these three cheek brushes all have about the same length of handle and ferrule. If I hold this next to a Sonia G brush though, you can see that the Sonia G brush is much longer. The S-100 series from Hakuhodo does have longer handles. It's a little bit more similar to the length of a Sonia G brush, but the rest of them are that shorter length. If you have Sonia G's Keyaki set, you'll see that they're quite similar in length to those brushes. So personally, I don't mind that. I think the shorter length actually works a little bit better if you're just applying makeup on your own face. Typically, the longer makeup brush handles are more suited for makeup artists because you don't want to have your hand right up on your client's face, and so it's nice to have that distance. But for me personally, I've never had an issue with the shorter handles of Japanese makeup brushes, but just wanted to call that out in case you try these out and you're kind of surprised because they sort of look like mini brushes compared to what's typical in Western makeup. So with that overview out of the way, let's get into today's demo. So I'm gonna just do a full face of makeup with you guys. These are just gonna be products that I feel like using today. So not a ton of rhyme and reason, but for the most part, newer releases. And I will be using other brushes in addition to the brushes that I picked up, just because the brushes I picked up do lean very heavily on the cheek area. So for the other parts of my face, I'll use brushes from my existing collection. But if you're only interested in demos of these new brushes, feel free to skip ahead in the timestamps below. So first off, I'm going to use the rest of this little sample that I have of the Shiseido Synchro Skin Lifting Foundation. So I tried this out in my original holiday haul video. This is a foundation I have heard very good things about over the years, and so I was quite excited to try it out. And basically in the center of my face, I'm putting the shade 220 Linen, and then in the outskirts, I'm putting 330 Bamboo, because my current skin tone is sort of between the two. And I'm just going to use my Sonia G base brush today. In the spirit of Fude, I will only use Japanese natural hair makeup brushes for today's video. So here we have the foundation blended in, and this is my second time trying it out. And I have to say I'm quite impressed with this foundation overall. I mean, it's not necessarily blowing me out of the water in terms of being totally different from any other foundation, but it is really nice. I mean, I have absolutely no complaints whatsoever about this foundation. My skin is on the dry side, especially now during the winter months, and I feel like it's very flattering on my skin. As you can see, it leaves that nice dewy, hydrated finish, and I think those two shades mixed together are pretty good in terms of undertone and shade match for my skin. In terms of foundation, I'm going in with the Dior Forever Skin Correct in 2N. Ever since I got this, this has been kind of my go-to everyday concealer. I really also like this on no makeup days because it looks very nice and natural. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to put on some of my ABH Eye Primer. If you guys watched my best of 22 makeup, you know this is my overall favorite eye primer. Honestly, the only one that I use on days when I'm not trying out new products. And I'm just going to blend this all in with that base brush. And just to refine the blend, I'm going to go in with my soft concealer brush from Sonia G, just to get into those smaller areas of my face. Okay, so I look very much like a ghost right now, but let's go ahead and powder this down. So I have my Saie powder with me today. This is not my favorite powder by any means, but it's one that I like grabbing for on days when my skin is feeling really dry, because this is one of the few powders I've used that really doesn't do much in terms of mattifying or drying out your skin. So I'm going to go in now with that Koyudo brush, which is just so pretty. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that powder and push it into that brush, and then just kind of lightly sweep this around the center of my face. And I feel like this sort of brush is actually the perfect size for me to do face powder. It is on the smaller side, but it really gets into the areas around my nose a lot better than a large face brush would. For the under eye area though, I'm going to go in with that Hakuhodo brush and just really go in there. Okay, there we go. So everything is nicely set down now. So I went off camera to do my brows. I used my Gucci brow pencil in the shade brown. This is my go-to on days when I just want a really effortless brow look. And then I also went in with my Kosas brow gel. This is in the shade medium brown, and I like this for days when I want a little bit more volume. And then before we go on, my lips are feeling pretty dry right now, so I'm going to go in with Temptress from Cosmetics. I have been enjoying this formula since I got it. It is very comfortable on the lips, instantly nourishing, and leaves a really nice amount of pigmentation considering how comfortable it is. And I think the shade actually goes really well with the dress I have on today. These flowers kind of match. And this light is getting really bright, so let me be right back. I'm going to close that window. So now let's get into the portion of this video where I think these brushes can really shine. So I'm going to first go in with some bronzer / contour. So I have here the Corselette Sculpting Powder from Cosmetics. I tried this in my previous video, but only on half of my face, and so I still haven't gotten a good sense of this. This is in the shade Slip, which is their lightest shade. In hindsight, I wonder if I should have gotten a deeper shade. As you can see, this is quite light on my skin tone, but I did want something a little bit more cool toned, so let's see how this looks. So to start out, I'm going to first go in with this FO brush from Chikuhodo and just take a little bit of that on the brush and start sweeping this along my cheekbone. Okay, that is looking quite light, but that's okay. Let's start putting this all around the face. If it's too light, I'll also maybe just go in with another product as well. But hopefully this product is buildable. Okay, I think that's actually looking pretty good on the forehead area. It's always hard for me to know with bronzers whether to go in with a light or a medium shade, because I feel like nowadays I'm kind of in between those two. It used to always be medium, but now sometimes those are a bit pigmented for me. I really like how this brush feels though. It's super soft and bouncy on the skin and just feels like a cloud. And I think it's doing a beautiful job as well. So this side has the bronzer, this side has nothing. Let's also bring a little bit of this on the chin area. Again, this just feels so lovely on the skin. I kind of regret not picking up more from this line because I guess I've been using goat hair brushes primarily for a while and I've forgotten just how lovely other hair types can feel. I mean, this is my first time trying silver fox, but it's supposed to emulate squirrel hair, which I really love. Ooh, wow. Okay, that is a really beautiful sculpt. So for context, this side of my face often has more problems in terms of blendability because I have a lot of texture there, whereas this side is my good side, and I think you can see that from today's application. But man, I am very impressed though with this brush because the other day I tried using this bronzer and it really didn't work out. I mean, I think part of it was also the powder I used. I used the ABH powder, which I think was just a little bit too drying for my skin. So I think the Saie powder is much better from that standpoint. But I think this brush is definitely helping too. Like, wow, look how beautifully airbrushed that looks. I'm so impressed. So far, this is definitely a hit. I love this. I actually will have to consider whether to buy some more of these brushes. They are sold on Fude, Japan's website, which I haven't actually purchased anything from their website before, and this is not sponsored in any way, but they're like the one place I've seen online where you can buy these brushes and have them shipped to the US, so I'll have to check that out. So because I also picked this up for this sort of sculpting purpose, I'm also just going to take a little bit more of this and just use this brush to concentrate it in certain areas. And I think this brush is also really good for this use case. As you can see, it's a little bit smaller and a little bit denser, so it just picks up a more targeted amount. So really great if you really want that sculpting effect. And speaking of which, let's actually use this on my nose area. I'm always on the hunt for good nose contour brushes because nose contour is a step that I tend to forget, but then later on when I'm taking pictures, I notice that the entire center of my face just looks very flat, and so that's usually when I remember to do it. This brush for me is a little bit big for nose contour just because I have a very small nose, but I think it does a decent job. Definitely very nice blend. You don't see any harsh edges. Wow. In general, I am very impressed with how this has performed with these brushes. Way better than the first time I used this product, and in general, I just think I look so sculpted. Like, it looks really natural, just like I have more dimension to my face. So I'm really, really liking this so far. So moving right along, I still haven't tried out this M Cosmetics blush in the shade Baroque. I am very excited for this one, so I'm going to take that Chikuhodo brush and just take, oh my god, okay, a lot of product came out, I forgot how. So this is a baked formula, but a lot of product does come off very easily, so be quite careful. Let me actually see how much I picked up on my brush. Probably enough for both cheeks, so let's just bounce that on. Okay, all right, this, interesting. This blush is very light. I mean, it looks light, so I'm not that surprised, but let's see. Okay, I guess that's pretty. It almost looks a little bit more like a highlight on my skin because it's so light. I can see the sheen, but I'm not seeing as much of the color. On the plus side, I think this goes really well with the bronzer. It just kind of melts into the bronzer very nicely. I guess it gives a tiny bit of a peachy sheen to the cheeks, but is overall very subtle. All right. Yeah, I think this is definitely good on days when you don't really want to look like you're wearing blush, but you still want something there on your cheeks, not just the bronzer. But I don't know. What do you guys think? I feel like I'm kind of on the fence on this, and I keep building it up because I want to see a little bit more color payoff, but it's not necessarily a very colorful product. This brush though is very soft, very nice. Not nearly as soft as the Silver Fox, but still very lovely. All right, so there we have the cheeks done. I might actually go in later with a little bit more blush depending on how the final eye look goes. So we'll see. But I think this is looking cute for now. Let me actually dust whatever blush is left over my nose just for a little bit more color. So for the eyes today, I wanted to go back into the Natasha Denona Retro Glam palette since this is one of the newest additions to my collection and I feel like I haven't had enough time to play around with it. So let me bring you guys in for this eyeshadow portion. So I'm going to start today's look with Holly. I'm not really sure which direction I want to go in yet with today's look, but I think I'm going to try to do sort of a pinky backdrop and then green on the lids because I'm still trying to figure out how to make this palette work if you want to use the full color story. Personally, so far, I've mostly really loved this palette for just green looks. The sage green is just really beautiful to me, but of course, the nature of this color story is a little bit more of a sage, khaki, pinky red, and that color story hasn't really cohered yet for me. I'm using my trusty Wayne Goss number 16 brush. This is my all-time favorite crease brush. And in case you're curious why I primarily bought cheek brushes in Japan, it's because I find their eyeshadow brushes are often more for kind of a one and done eyeshadow look, which is not really my cup of tea. I mostly try to do more detailed looks, and so I find that for me at least the cheek brushes are a better fit for my makeup style than most of the eyeshadow brushes. And I feel like it's getting a little dark, so let me brighten things up for you guys. All right, so there we go. That blended in super easily. So now let's go in with my Wayne Goss number 19 brush and deepen this up a bit with Evergreen. So I'm gonna try to keep this a little bit closer to the lash line because if pink and green mix, they kind of make a grayish brown color, and so I think it's better to have some degree of separation. So now I'm going to start going in with this Hakuhodo brush, which I am very excited about. So let's see. I think I'm going to first start out with a little bit of Palladian. I'm just going to take a tiny bit of that and just put that on the inner portion because I thought this brush might be nice for very careful placement of shimmers. It's definitely picking up sort of a light wash, I would say. I think if I went in with a finger, I would get a little bit more opacity, but that's okay. That's pretty standard for brushes. Let me actually just try putting a little bit on with a finger. Okay, yeah, that does make a big difference. So with the finger, with the brush. Let me actually first put some on with a finger and then use this brush maybe to blend them out. I think that might work better. Okay, so there's Palladian, and then I'm going to take a little bit of Marlin. Every time I do this palette, I do like just using a lot of the shades in sort of a gradient because I feel like it really lends itself for that. So Marlin's going to kind of take over most of the center, and then Oz going into that outer portion. And now I'm going to repeat those steps with the Hakuhodo brush. So I'm going to first go in with Palladian again and just kind of lightly wash that along the inner third, and then go in with Marlin. And this brush is extremely soft, which is quite lovely. It really feels extremely light on the lids. I think this will be excellent on the lower lash line, so I'm very excited to use it for that as well. As I mentioned, not necessarily the most pickup of any brush, but I guess that's the trade-off we have here. I think the pink is basically getting covered up though, so I'm gonna have to try to figure out how to reintroduce that at the end. For now, I'm just adding a little bit of Oz. I do like the size of this brush because it's a little bit smaller than my Chikuhodo GSN9 brush. Let me actually show you guys a comparison of those two. So the Chikuhodo GSN9 is over here. This is a blue squirrel hairbrush as well. And then this new Chikuhodo brush is a little bit smaller and squatter. I think the small size just means you can really get quite detailed there. So I'm just kind of sweeping this along the crease area just to define that shape. Very pretty. Now I'm going back in with that Wayne Goss number 19 brush with some evergreen just for the outer portion, bringing that out almost like a wing. And then with my Wayne Goss number 17 brush, I'm going back into that holly shade just to add a little bit more of that pink again, because I don't want that to be totally lost. And I'm just sweeping this in the crease area. All right, so here we have the lids done. So now for the lower lash line, I'm going to kind of mimic what I did on top, and I'm going to try to use as much as possible just this Hakuhodo brush. So I'm going to first go in with this holly shade and just sweep this kind of generously all along that lower lash line area. I will say this brush is a little bit small for the holly shade because I want to bring this a little bit lower, but I think this will be really good for the other shimmers. So I'm bringing this basically all over that lower eye bag area. And then I'm taking some of evergreen and concentrating that on the outer thirds. And this brush is really nice for this kind of work. It's very soft, not irritating at all. I think it's really building up that evergreen shade nicely. And now I'm just taking some of Marlin, putting that on the center of the lower lash line, and then some of Palladian just on the inner third. Alrighty, I think that actually did a really good job for all of those use cases on the lower lash line. So I'm quite pleased with this brush. I usually go in with a Rephr number 2 or a Sonia G Builder brush for this kind of purpose. Let me actually show you guys the comparison. So this Hakuhodo brush is just like a tiny version of this. And so I'm glad I picked this up because I think it's just so useful for that lower lash line area and just feels really nice. So I went off camera to do my eyeliner, and as always, the products will be linked down below. So now let's finish off this look. So I feel like my cheeks are definitely lacking color now in comparison to the eyes. And so I took out my Pat McGrath Divine Blush and Glow palette. This is one I still haven't really gotten to play around with fully. So let's go in with, so I cleaned off this FO brush, and I think I'm gonna go into this Peony Rose shade again. I did a little bit of this the other day, but it was a little intense, so let's try this again. I feel like this might match well with the Holly shade that I have on my eyes. Ooh, okay, I think this is definitely helping. Ooh, very pretty. Let's add a little bit more of that. Oh, I love this brush so much. Definitely would highly recommend this brush. It's just so soft. And usually with squirrel hair brushes, at least in my experience, because they're so soft, they don't necessarily have that same feeling of density, but this brush feels really, really nicely dense. It kind of just feels like a cotton ball that's sort of pouncing on your skin. Very pretty. And then let me take a little bit of Divine Rose as well. I know I love this shade. I think this will just kind of cool things down a little bit. Ooh. And then, I don't know, why not? Let's take a tiny bit of this reddish shade, which is Electric Bloom. And I'm just gonna try to do that on the outer portions, just for a little bit of a gradient, just a tiny bit. I'm trying to add this on in layers because I don't want this to become overwhelming. But wow, okay, I think that's looking really pretty. And then because this is technically a highlight brush, I'm going to go in with the Hakuhodo brush into this highlighter. And whew, okay, that was a little bit much. Okay, let's, whew, all right. I definitely picked up a little bit too much. Let me dust off the rest of this and then just really try to blend this in. I don't know why that came off like a stripe of highlight. Wow. Alrighty. See if I can get this to diffuse a little bit more. Okay, I think on this side it's looking much better. This side is still a little bit like a stripe. Let me actually try to go in with this FO brush. Has a little bit more density. Ooh, okay, there we go. So very nicely lit from within. And while we have this highlighter, I'm gonna also just take this for the inner corners of my eyes. This is my Sonia G Mini Booster brush, my favorite brush for inner corner highlight. And then I'm just going to take a tiny bit of it on the edge of the brush for my brow bone as well. And then whatever is left on that Hakuhodo brush, I'm just going to brush down the bridge of my nose. Now, assessing this final look, I do like it with this lip, but I wonder if something more pigmented might work a little bit better. And I'm gonna go in with my new Merit Beauty lipstick in Lave Nude. Okay, yeah, I think this is looking much better with this overall outfit. Probably should have put a lip liner on first, but I think this will work. And by the way, this is my second time wearing this, and from the first time I was extremely impressed with the longevity of this lipstick because it's very hydrating, very pleasant on the lips, feels amazing, but it still manages to last quite a bit. Like after meals, I did need to reapply it a bit, but the pigmentation for the most part lasted for the whole day, which was incredibly impressive for me given just how nice the lipstick feels and also the fact that this is clean beauty. So I did just want to call that out. Alrighty, so here we have the final look. What do you guys think? I am overall very excited and very impressed about this look and about these brushes. In particular, definitely the hero today was this Chikuhodo brush. I am super excited about this. It just feels so different from all of my other brushes. It's so beautifully soft, yet you can also use it for buffing because it's so dense. And so I really love this series and I'm definitely going to check out the other brushes in this series as well. I would say for the Koyudo brush, it is a very lovely, very soft brush, perfect for powder and blush. It's not necessarily that different than a lot of my other brushes. It reminds me a lot of this Sonia G Classic Face brush. It's just kind of a much bigger version of this. So definitely no complaints with this brush, but I would say it's definitely the least unique in comparison to my existing brush collection, just because it is that Saie goat hair and a very similar shape to some of my existing brushes. Of course, though, I picked this up primarily for the aesthetics, and it definitely doesn't disappoint in that department. In terms of this Hakuhodo brush, this one I'll have to play around with a little bit more. I think this did a very good job of contouring my nose and my cheeks today. I did not like how it performed with that highlighter, but that could have just been a fluke. In general, this one I primarily picked up for the shape and size, and so I think it's great from that perspective, but it's not necessarily as unique as the FO, for example, which is just such a winner in comparison in this bronzer department. And then finally, I really enjoyed this other Hakuhodo brush. I think it's just so beautiful and luxurious, and I think the size of this is just very versatile as well. In the future, I think I'll definitely use this primarily for the inner third and lower lash line areas, but I think as you could see today, it does good work throughout the whole eye area, and I really like just the line and separation it provided in today's eye look, sort of keeping the greens and the reds from getting muddy. So overall, I'm very pleased with this brush and definitely interested in checking out more from this series as well. In terms of the makeup products, generally no changes in my impressions other than with this M Cosmetics Corselette bronzer. Like I said in my first video with this, I didn't really like how it applied, but I figured it might have to do with the powder. In today's video, it looked beautiful. I think it's incredibly airbrushed and seamless on the skin. It looks more like a cream bronzer than a powder bronzer in terms of just how well it melted into the skin. I can't say how much of that is just due to this product versus due to the brushes, but I was definitely very impressed with this product today. And everything else I put on my face today is already a favorite and has remained a favorite, so definitely if you're interested in any of these products, please check out my links in the description box below. So that's it for today's video. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I would love to hear in the comments what you guys think about Fude brushes, if you guys have any favorite brushes or brands or series that you'd like me to check out. Please also let me know if in general you'd be interested in more Fude brush content, because I definitely really love these brushes and am happy to share more content with them if you guys are interested. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!